Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Becoming Awesome, AWS's live stream podcast where Amazon insiders introduce you to the humans of AWS. I'm your co-host, Ray Thomas, senior recruiter from AWS's infrastructure organization, along with my co-host, Jenna, principal recruiter. And, whether you're streaming live through the live link and just lurking or just sign into your Twitch or YouTube account, live and ready to engage with us in the chat room, or even watching the video on demand later on. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today, we bring you Purva Upasak, Principal CSM, Customer Solutions Manager, and really looking forward to meeting Purva and getting to know her more. And I think, Jenna, you two will have something in common, so some of the passions as far as the outdoorsy stuff. So I look forward to you getting to know her as well. But again, Jenna, welcome.
How are you? Thank you. Why do you know her better than me already?
I had a quick conversation with her when we were setting up the chat and just asking a little bit about her, asked her for some photos and stuff if she had to share on the show. So once I saw that, I told her, you and Jenna will get along. so I'll let you two have that conversation. But how was your weekend, first off?
Pretty good. And I'm taking off next week. So note to you, I think I already told you that I'll be off next week. And I have like a bunch of offers that I have to make. So it's just like a really good time. Mm-hmm. We're moving along here in recruiting, finding some balance in life. So stay tuned for any updates past that.
Awesome.
How about you? You look like you're part work with your AWS t-shirt and part vacation with the Hawaii.
Everyone's been saying that. Everyone's been saying that. Like people have said that I look like I just came from the beach or about to go to the beach. Even from the security at AWS when I went to the building the other day. So I have like 3 or 4 shirts, like kind of like that Hawaiian shirt, but it's comfortable. I like it because it's comfortable more than anything. So
makes work better when you're comfortable.
Yeah, and it's hot outside right now in New York City, over 90 degrees sometimes, and I don't want one layer to be super sticky if I just wear one thing. So, that's why I wear something over. But aside from that, let's bring on our guest, Purva. Welcome to the stage. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I am good. It's a foggy day back again today in San Francisco, so I wish it was a little warmer. And I was hearing about your comments about like your part vacation and part work. It'd be amazing to be able to kind of just take part vacation and part work. Looking forward to a little bit of a break next week, hopefully.
Yes.
Are you going anywhere? Or are you taking the week off?
No, I'm not taking the week off, but I'm planning to take potentially Friday off, just make it a 4-day weekend.
So nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very cool. I plan on doing that next week with the July 4th coming up. So I'll have a 4-day weekend also. Taking the kid down to the Poconos, to the water park. So excited about that. Our yearly thing that she absolutely loves to do more than anything. So
nice.
Yeah. But welcome, Purva. Why don't you give a brief introduction to your background?
Yeah. Hey, folks. So as Ray mentioned, I am a Principal Customer Solutions Manager. And I've been working in the tech industry for a fairly long time. It's super interesting. When I was a kid and my mother wanted me to learn computers, I was like, hell no, I'm not touching that thing ever in my entire life, because it was a clunky piece of hardware. I didn't want to go to a computer lab because we didn't have computers at our house growing up. So I was like, I'm not touching that thing ever again. And then as I started looking at what I wanted to do next, I always knew I'd go into technology because my mother was a biology teacher. So I was just like, okay, science is just kind of part of who I am. And I wanted to become a doctor. But then when I looked at all the amount of effort that I would need to do, I was like, no, let's look at what else I can do. So that's how it kind of ended up in computer science and IT. Is like, I was like, okay, I really, really enjoy working in tech, but I really want to know what I can do. So that's how I sort of ended up in computer science and learning about computer science. So right now, I'm continuing to do what I like, which is working on the intersection of business and technologies with our customers, making sure that they're actually getting the most value from their integrations, from their engagement with Salesforce. And that's kind of where I am right now, Ray. looking back, I've worked as a software engineer. I worked as a consultant. I worked as a solutions architect. So I've kind of been working with the customers for a very long time. And I love watching that. I love that intersection of seeing our customers benefit from using our technologies, helping them understand what they can do to do things better, but also seeing them actually serve their customers. So that's what I've been doing lately.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's see.
So what's the hardest part of what you do? I heard a lot of like joy, but let's just try to get a little bit real. Like what makes work hard, and how does that bring you joy?
Yeah. So when you look at working at AWS, you're always surrounded by the smartest people. So that's both the best part and the hardest part, right, Jenna? Because you're like, oh my God, I'm most probably not the smartest person in the room. And it's a reality check coming to that situation and then being forced to learn new things. So that's what I really enjoy. But sometimes when you're put in a position like that, you have to do context switch and you have to move from one opportunity, one activity to the other. And being able to do that on a regular basis can sometimes be exhausting, right? Because you're trying to do something. For example, take today's discussion, right? If you're going to ask me about my work and then all of a sudden talk about my personal life, it's a context switch. So being able to do that at a level where customers have different projects that they're working on, they have different business and tech goals that they're trying to address and solve, being able to work with different teams within Amazon. And I mean Amazon, right? Because you're working not just with AWS, but broader Amazon. So the context switch can be extremely hard sometimes, but that's part of the job. And sometimes you just need to take a break and say, I'm taking a vacation and going to a water park as Ray is going next week to relax and to take a break from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's something about that, like trying to find that balance is so key. And burnout is real, right? We all get burnt out, no matter what company you're with. If you're doing certain things that are, whether you're in a high stress environment or even in a low stress environment, but doing repetitive tasks over and over, right? You can still feel some type of burnout, and you need to go find that other thing that completely resets your mind, right?
Yeah.
So with that, before we dive into that, I think you travel a lot, right? So tell us a little bit about what you do outside, just to, just sort of
Yeah.
leave them.
So I like being outside. And one of the reasons I live in the Bay Area is so that I can go very close, go to all the national parks and go to all the amazing hiking trails nearby. So what I like to do outside of work is being outside, literally. So for example, I recently hiked in Patagonia in January. I did the W Trek. It was 5 days of 60 miles of hiking, and it was one of the best things, but also one of the worst things I've ever done in my life. So that's what I like to do. I love being outside. I like taking photos, and I'm not a photographer. I don't even have Instagram. I'm one of those Luddites, I feel, but I'm definitely like being outside. I love hiking. Just being in the nature is how I really feel like I found myself. So what I like to do outside of work is being outside, but I'm also love reading. So right now I'm reading like a couple of books, and I like to do that because then it allows me to sort of shut down all the things which are going on in my head on a constant basis. And that's sort of part of what I do on a regular basis is being outside, take a couple of miles of hiking or a couple of miles of running. So I go running every morning if I can. So just being outside is the most important thing for me. Being able to see the nature, being able to see people around you and just who are also outside and hiking, or sometimes just looking, running or biking. That's some of the stuff which I'm really, really using all my extra time for.
It's funny, Jenna. When I was meeting Purva, she said something about she has to go pay the sun tax, and the way my mind was like with everything going on and how like all these wacky things are happening in the country. I'm like, wow, a state is actually charging a sun tax now. What's happening? It's like actually like kind of like felt for like 'cause I was just like in that foggy moment. So. But yeah, that actually happened. I thought there was a new tax called the sun tax in California.
The vitamin D tax, another way of putting it.
Take your pick. We can call it something else as well.
Purva, where is this at, by the way? Where are these two photos taken?
These are both from Death Valley National Park. That's in Southern California. It's pretty much on the border of Nevada and California, and it's literally my favorite place on earth. And the best sunsets are always, I think, desert sunsets. I know some folks who say like the best sunsets are on the water. I am going to fight them because I think the best sunsets are in the desert and specifically in Death Valley National Park. So yeah, I hike there. My husband and I, that's our annual tradition. Every Thanksgiving, it's beautiful weather. We go hike there. We go into the sand. We go into all these little nooks and crannies within these little canyons. And it's just so beautiful. And it's massive, which means we get to hike on our own sometimes with nobody around us for miles.
Yeah.
So do you have as much as an appreciation for sunrise as you do for sunsets?
No.
So no.
I do not like mornings. I'm not a morning person. Like I do get up like around 6:37, but that's just me. I'm a grumpy person in the morning. I'm going to take my own time. I'm going to go run. I'm going to just take time off and become human by around 8:30. So no, I'm not a morning person, Jenna. Like in the evening, it's like I can work until pretty late. I can be awake until late, but mornings are just, when I have to get up early in the morning, I don't sleep well because it's like, oh my God, I have to get up. Is my alarm set? I know it's set, but I'm just going to be like every hour on the dot. Do I need to get up now? Do I need to get up now? I'm not a morning person at all.
Same here. I dread the mornings. I'm not a morning person. I'm a night owl. But at the same time, I'm the opposite of you. I do feel that the best sunrise and sunsets are on the water. Being a fisherman, that is the only time I will get up early is if I'm actually going on a fishing trip, because I've taken some epic videos of the water just being a complete mirror of like this beautiful pink sky. So it's something completely incredible. But there's a photo that you shared that I wanted to ask you about as well. Where was this? Where did you go? Was this Antarctica?
Yeah, this was Antarctica. So I went there a few years ago, and this was just as we were entering sort of like the Antarctic waters. So after the Drake Passage, so there's the Drake Passage is this huge body of water that connects the Antarctic waters to the waters near South America. And as you get into the Antarctic waters, you start seeing these massive, like literally massive. I can't even quite share the magnitude of these massive glaciers, because you're just staring up and you're on a tiny ship because you look like one of those ants on a giant piece of land, for example, and you're just staring up and up and up, and they're massively wide as well, right? Like some of them are the size of cities and city blocks. So it's just amazing.
What goes through your mind as you're seeing that? Like, do you when you see that and you look at what you left from your home to your job, all that stuff, do all that run through your mind? And like, just what goes through your mind when you see that?
I think for me, when I look at something like being outside, the way it helps me ground is that there's more to us than just work, right? Like it's super easy, especially in the Bay Area, to get caught up in this, hey, you're what you work, right? Like there's so many great companies here. There's so many technically smart people. There's so many exciting opportunities, but we're just part of like more than just the tech ecosystem. We're part of a larger ecosystem. And when I see an iceberg like this, the thing that goes through my mind is that I'm a very tiny part of this whole world. And at the same time, I am responsible for being a better person. So it helps me, again, ground myself. It helps me station myself. And it does help me sometimes come to the reality of the fact that, okay, not everything is work. Not everything is about doing so much more or doing better. Sometimes you need to stop to actually progress forward.
That's awesome. I love that advice. Thank you. I
It's hard
actually
to
think I
follow
really
that,
needed
Jenna.
that.
Trust me, I struggle with it myself. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, just that one email more, or just that like little meeting that we should set up.
Yeah, I know. I understand. I can relate to that. And I was just trying to embody that experience that you have. I've never been to Antarctica, but it's on my list. So I was really trying to just get into that and use some of your wisdom. So thank you so much for sharing that with us and with some of our viewers. Really an inspiration.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, your career, you said you were technical and you were a developer, I think you said, and now you have this like quasi intersectionality of business and technology. Um, what do you think is next for you?
Yeah, I think as I look at what's next, I always want to stay, I think, like within the tech industry or touching the tech industry, because that's something which is important to me. I feel like I understand it. I feel like it makes me push myself, it pushes my boundaries, and I like doing that, right? Uh, and innovation is driven by tech, right? Like there's no industry where you don't see technology at play. There's different kinds of technology, there's different ways to work on this technology, but every industry is a technical industry in many ways these days. So I'll always stay within the tech industry, Jenna. I think one of the things I know what I want to do and I like doing is helping. As I've mentioned, I work with our customers and we define how uh, we can address our customers' business needs and technical needs using AWS solutions. I want to help build solutions together. So I want to get into business development and corporate development, specifically corporate development, where we're identifying opportunities for multiple customers to potentially partner together with AWS, or for us to partner with different customers to build solutions used by our joint customers. So that's what I would love to go into, Jenna. If I'm looking at 5 years out, being part of the corporate business development team would be an amazing part, like being here at AWS, especially as I've been working with them on my current customer. It's an exciting opportunity that I'd love to think about and pursue.
Yeah. And so if there's anybody out there that maybe has come from a similar background of yours being technical and then evolving into the intersection of tech and business, do you have any advice on how to make that that first transition is first cut is the deepest, maybe the hardest? How did you do that and how can you maybe advise others on that transition?
So just to confirm, you're asking me how do I transition from being a developer to a CSM today, or
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, so I think it's super interesting. As I was an engineer, I was looking at what else is around me, right? Like we're all surrounded by this whole ecosystem, and you're always looking at who you're working with. And as I started looking at who are the other teams that I'm working with, I noticed that at that time I was a software developer at Cisco. It's like there's this role called technical marketing engineer at TME, where they're working directly with customers and helping them understand what the solution does. And hey, I really think I'd love to do that. So started talking with those folks and understand what is it that they do, what is the skill set needed, how do they actually understand the customer's requirements, how do they bring it back into the company. So the first cut being deepest is really understanding, asking people what they do, right? Like people love to talk about what they do, just like I'm doing it here, right? So I think like the first thing is really talking to people to understand what they do, because we all have these assumptions about what the role is or what people are going to do. So I wouldn't call it the first cut, but it's the first step is really understanding what is it that's out there and what is it that you want to do. And potentially it may not exist, right? Like you may need to build something, that a role that doesn't exist. So I think what you need to think about is what does Jenna do? Is that something I want to do? I need to talk to Jenna, right? Like, hey Jenna, what's your day like? What do you like? What do you dislike? What is the best thing? What's the worst thing? What would you change? And I continued doing that. So for me, I realized that I want to work outside, like on the surface. On this intersection with our customers and partners, and that's how I realized that I needed to get out of being an engineer and I moved into consulting. So when I was doing consulting, it really helped me understand how to customers look at different things, how to talk to them, how do you evaluate different things from a customer perspective, and it really helped me also understand where my strengths and my weaknesses are. So I always knew I would, even in consulting, I was doing technology consulting. So moved into technology consulting. Then I was like, okay, want to get closer to the industry. So I then moved into Akamai, and then eventually I moved into AWS. So I think, Jenna, for me, the first cut is understanding what you do, because it is really hard, right? It's not just talking about what you want to do now, it also impacts how you're going to approach your career 2 years out or the next role. So that for me is the hardest thing. Like, it took me a really long time, even within AWS, to understand what I want to do next, right? Like the corporate BD team, I didn't know that's what I wanted to do 2 years before, or like 3 years ago. So that's where it's important, is that take the time to define what you want to do, because you can easily say, this is what I'm going to do, but it's not what you want to do 6 years out or 3 years out. And that's perfectly fine as well. I highly recommend people learn and make mistakes. But the hardest thing is defining what you want to do and figuring out how you're going to get there.
Yeah, I love how reflective you are. And I have more questions. Ray has questions. Of course, we want to just make sure that we're keeping this very open for any of the viewers' questions. So thank you, Avatar TV, for your comment. We take not just comments, we take questions as well. So just on this idea of reflecting on yourself, this is a unique culture. We've heard people say that on the show before. So what is the most surprising thing that you've learned about yourself working here?
Yeah. So when you join Amazon, I mean Amazon, right? Like, not just AWS. When you join AWS or Amazon, you need to sort of understand the culture. You need to understand how the company works, right? Like, for example, I joined when I was working at my previous companies, we used PowerPoint. We don't use PowerPoint within AWS, right? We use writing. So understanding the culture of the company is extremely important. And then you may need to forget or undo bad habits or even good habits which have brought you here into AWS and pick up new habits. So I think like that's one of the first things, Jenna, was having to undo what I knew or what I was comfortable with. And that took some time, right? You don't just go right into becoming an Amazonian. I think the thing that surprised me was how much I actually appreciated the opportunity to be pushed beyond my limit. I always knew that I want to learn new things, but I always wanted to know what I could do beyond what I was comfortable with. And that's what I love the most about it, is like I'm always challenged to do new things or learn new things.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's what I tell everyone. Any candidate I've ever talked to. Even today actually is my first time family member actually joined AWS today. Today's their day one, and I worked there 5.5 years. I had nothing to do with the hire. I didn't even know they were interviewing, but I told them about the culture. When they were considering the opportunity, and I said, 6 months here is almost like 2 years at another organization because of how much you can learn, depending on how much you can absorb, and take.
Yeah.
And it's all because of the incredible people around you and the knowledge they have and willing to share. The more open you are, the more you'll grow. It's that simple. And just to make another comment from what you mentioned earlier about thinking about your career and thinking further down the line, this is one of the unique places. I'm not just saying it because I'm here. It's only because I've experienced it, and everyone else I've talked to said the same thing. How many other organizations out there can you actually move internally to do different functions? And they allow you to do that, right? All depending on the skill sets you have that you could bring to the plate. So again, it's fascinating seeing some of the internal movement from former teammates of ours that were recruiters now on the business side, to other people in the business from a non-technical to a technical role, or vice
Yeah.
versa. So it's fascinating. Yeah. So with
And
that,
you've been a manager, you've been an individual contributor, you've been promoted, you've been a manager, and now you're an individual contributor again. So you've really gotten to kind of explore your elements here.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to take chances. For me, I knew I wanted to be a manager, and then I had the opportunity to do that and build my team, and I was like, I think I need to go back into being an IC, and my leadership was very supportive. So that, as you mentioned, Ray, right? Like, there's an opportunity to understand and explore and move within AWS, which is super exciting. And it's not just within AWS, you can move to Amazon as well, right? Like, there's so much opportunity that if you are interested in it, you can go and talk to hiring managers. You can go talk to recruiters. For example, I can go talk to Jenna, let's say if she was hiring for another role, and be like, Jenna, I'd be interested. And she'd be open and willing to talk to me. So it's definitely something that is an opportunity within the company.
yeah. Now I want to talk about your role also as a principal CSM, and kind of, provide insight. If you can't provide insight, like, what do you do as a principal versus a senior level? We actually had another principal CSM, and we got their take on it a few months ago. But I think it's important to share your perspective as well, because this is the part that a lot of people don't understand sometimes coming in externally applying, and they're so title specific versus function specific, right? So, what's your take on that?
Yeah. So, firstly, Ray, as a CSM, your core guiding light, if I can call it that, the most important thing is the customer, right? You're always thinking about how to make your customers successful. I think when what starts differing is who your customers are. And as a principal, your customers are not just, for example, your immediate customer that you're supporting, your immediate line of business, but looking outside, how is it what you're doing? How can that be used by other customers? So, for example, let's say I support company A. I did something at company A. How can that be replicated or duplicated at company A, B, C, and D? Right? How is it that our multiple customers can, for example, maximize value or reduce cost or improve efficiency or reduce overhead? So that's an important distinction, because as a principal, not only are you doing your immediate work and enabling your customer and making them successful, it's how can you enable a larger swath or of customers to do that. At the same time, your customers are also, your function. So as a CSM, principal CSM, I also look at, hey, how can we improve the CSM function as well, right? Like, what are some of the mechanisms that we can build that are going to improve the functioning, not just within the CSM organization, but teams? So I'm part of strategic accounts, for example. What can I do as a principal that's going to enable strategic accounts broadly to support our customers better? How can we do more for our customers? And again, if you keep in mind, this is all customer driven, right? Like, hey, where our customers need to be 6 months out, 12 months out, 18 months out? How do you work to enable them? You're also, as a principal CSM, helping other CSMs in their career, right? Like, you're guiding them, you're giving them the opportunity to learn new things, you're giving them the opportunity to ask you questions and help them with anything that they're stuck on. And I think as you start looking at different levels within Amazon, the expectation is not, hey, you're a principal, so you will not do X, Y, or Z. The expectation is you're a principal, so you're now looking at it from a broader lens. You're thinking bigger, if I can use our LPs, right? You're looking at it from a perspective of how can you dive deep, but also still look at it from the perspective of being able to support multiple different businesses or being able to support multiple different customers. at the same time, you're providing your inputs to senior leadership on a regular basis. So being able to communicate uh, within AWS and your customer is also equally important. So I think we are all, when you start looking at whether it's a senior or a principal or a CSM, we're all responsible for a customer's success. Your customers may look different. The number of customers may differ or change as you go up the ladder, but you're still going to be responsible for success. What you need to do is just look at it from a bigger lens and be able to make more people successful.
Yeah. So the analogy I kind of use with candidates in general is like, say you're a principal for a car manufacturer, like say Toyota, right? It's one thing to be a principal there. It's another thing to actually build solutions for the whole automotive industry, right? So that's kind of like, and then they get it. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of like the simplest analogy that helps explain it.
And it doesn't happen overnight either, right? Like when you join AWS, we were talking about the culture, right? Like as you get promoted, you need to build that muscle as well, right? Like you need to start looking at, you've been doing that for some time, but now you're actually responsible for this on a regular basis. So I think like it's really important to give yourself the time and the resources and the bandwidth to be successful, and have the time to actually sit down and think about how you can have this broader impact.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of that, is there a use case or anything that's public that you can share to give an example?
So I think what's super interesting is that outside of my day job, I've been working with the observability teams, and that started because one of my previous customers was into observability. So I think like you can find a couple of blog posts online, which I where I had presented, where I had shared how to think about building an observability strategy, right? Like that is something which is broadly applicable to multiple customers. So that's an example, Ray, that I would like to share. And there's also other customers that can benefit from this. I don't think I can share everything that my customer is working on,
Of course.
as you already know that. But what as me and my team, by that I mean like the team that I work with, uh, what we are built enabling our customer for, and as we're working with our product and service teams, those are features which will be available for other customers as well. So yeah, it's definitely exciting.
Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome. So I think you're also making an impact also within the world of diversity and inclusion in AWS. Are you involved in the affinity groups, and how do you, what can you share about your involvement in that world?
Yeah, so I am part of the Women at AWS Affinity Group, and affinity groups are like employee resource groups in other companies, like just for folks who are not aware of what affinity group is. And as part of Women at AWS, our mission is to make AWS the best and preferred employer for women. As you know, that when women join a company, and for any company, women have some specific challenges that they may need to address, right? So we provide this community for women members to build them, to develop their skill set. At the same time, we also are working with, for example, building a pipeline for the future, right? And recruiting the right talent. So, for example, Jenna, doing this with you, or helping with interviews. So, Women at AWS is important to me because I've always been involved with employee resource groups, with affinity groups. And as I look at where I am today, it happened because there was somebody else who stood up and said, no, I'm going to work in a male dominated industry. Tech still is to a very large extent, right? So giving women, and by the way, Women at AWS is open to all Amazonians. So giving everybody an opportunity to excel, giving everybody the resources, a community to build themselves and to make AWS a better place for every employee is important to me because I've benefited from the work others have done. And I've always been part of affinity groups, whether it was at Cisco or Deloitte. And when I first joined, we had this group had just started. It wasn't even called Women at AWS, right? Like just like everything, we evolved. We were a very small group. Then we started working with sales and marketing, and now we're representing broader women at AWS. So I like being part of it because it gives me the opportunity to give back. It gives me the opportunity to volunteer my time and help others. And Women at AWS has helped me grow as well, right? Like I have learned leadership skills. I have learned about some of the challenges, which I'm not familiar with because I don't have kids. But as you know, that women who are mothers and families with kids, they have specific issues that they need to address, right? So it makes me a better human being as well. And I have found some really close friends. So I was a co-president last year, and my one of my closest friends at Amazon at AWS is Show, and she and I were co-presidents. We learned to work with each other. We're like chalk and cheese. She's completely different from me. I'm completely different from her. And we learned how to work together. We understood how to present ourselves, our mission, and we are trying to just make AWS a better place.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's pretty clear that you're passionate about the topic. How do you actually combat bias in the industry?
Yeah, I have run into bias. I'm not gonna lie, right? It is true. It's still there, and I think the first thing is acknowledging and calling it out, because unless it's done, unless somebody tells you that you did something wrong, you'll continue that behavior. So sometimes people don't even realize that something that they're doing is biased, and just calling it out may actually show it to them that okay, they need to change their behavior. So that's one of the first things. The other is sometimes people just don't acknowledge, or they will continue to do that. So working power of numbers helps, right? Like having a systemic support system helps you address that bias, because then you can be like, hey, this is a behavior that needs to change. Here's how we can change it. Here's how we can build better policies, for example, to enable others and to make sure something like this doesn't happen in the future. So for me, Jenna, addressing bias is it starts with acknowledging there's bias, identifying biases, and then working to find changes. And sometimes I've had to just be like, okay, I'm not going to do this. I am not going to go work with X, Y, or Z person, or I'm not going to go work with X, Y, and Z company because I do not align what I think about, what are my values, what's important to me doesn't align with theirs. Have I been very successful? Not always, just being very honest. And I think you can't address bias just by yourself. You need to have the right support system. You need to bring everybody together to address it. But literally, the first thing is calling out where the bias is and what is the issue.
That's where the allies.
Just as a talking, yeah, for sure. And as some talking points around it, why is it important to have more women in technology?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, right, technology was built by men in a lot of ways. If you look at healthcare, a lot of medicine was tested on men. So a lot of processes in place are because, for example, a lot of medical science was tested on male bodies or male cadavers, which means they didn't always understand women's bodies, right? If I extend that same example to the building heating system, it was meant for men. It's not meant for women. And we know that women and men have different body systems, and women can get colder. So for me, having more women is important because we represent a part of this ecosystem that we live in, like 50% of the world. So unless we are there, unless our point of view is represented, we will continue to be in the same place we are. unless we actually ask for more, unless we ask for what's rightfully ours. Nobody's going to give it to us. Like, policies and laws are important, but actually enabling them happens when you ask for it. So for me, that's why you need to have more women. The other thing is seeing women succeed drives other women to success as well, right? Like, I saw my mother work her entire life. So for me, I knew that I wanted to be a working woman because I saw how that made her happy, how it was a part of her life. So for me, that showed it as well. But then when you look at our leadership, having women there showcases what's possible, right? Like, it shows what you can do. And then these are the people who are guiding us. These are the people who are also showing us how to get there and how to break the glass ceiling, glass door, glass window, take your pick. But they're also the ones who are calling out the issues and pointing at them. And it's up to us and the women of the next generation to sort of say, this isn't feasible, this isn't acceptable, we're going to address it.
And as we talk to the next generation, I wonder if you have received any best pieces of career advice that you are willing to share, perhaps within the realm of your affinity group and connections, or any mentors or any personal connections that you hold dear.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like the advice which I have received, which I like, has really helped me is take chances. Does it always work out? Absolutely not, but it always teaches you something. So take the chance, but at the same time, uh, take a calculated risk, right? Sometimes you need to evaluate what is it that you want to do, what is the risks and the benefits of an opportunity, of a move, and then work through it. So for me, the best advice has been take chances.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I actually want to take it back to just the previous comments around combating bias and whatnot. Do you remember the moment when you decided that you really wanted to start taking action, and focus on improving, the culture for women in tech, or just advocating for women in general? Do you remember that moment in your life?
I'm going to answer it a little differently, Ray. I remember when I first started my career, I went to a senior women leader and asked them, why do we need this? Because I look at my team and there are so many women. Why do we need this? Right. And then she was like, okay, point me to the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level. So for me, it was like, oh, yeah. As you were talking about how as you grow in your career, your lens changes. That was for me like how to start looking at it differently. So for me, that was the point. It was very early on, Ray. Is like, I need to be a part of this because, hey, ulterior motive, it helps me, right? But it's also important because I have cousins who now are like working much younger than me. I feel ancient when I talk about them, my little babies. But yeah, but for me, it's like, okay, I don't want them to be in the same boat where they look up and look at the leadership and it's not as many women. We still need to do better across the board. But I didn't want them to feel the same way, which was, oh, yeah, there's like 10 leaders and no women at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I asked that because I grew up with a lot of women in my life, from my mom to my many aunts and countless female cousins, my sisters, and now I just have one daughter. Just wanted to make sure I did everything possible to uh, for them to have all the opportunities that we do, right? Just simple equality, nothing more, nothing less,
Yeah.
right? So when I had my daughter, I was already focused on trying to improve, opportunities for women in tech, because it was a math issue. Years ago, like, oh, we need more women engineers. Well, we didn't, but you want them with so much experience. Well, it's a math issue. They weren't focused on tech. We never provided those opportunities that many years ago. So we can't provide all the candidates you're looking for, right? So it was a math issue. So we knew the only way we could chip away at it is to constantly focus on it and then let time take its course, right? So that was
Yeah.
really cool. So, so yeah, I think that's one of the things that, when you shared that you were so passionate about that, that was something that came to mind, that you and I have that in common for sure. Really advocating for that. And I'm also part of the Women at Amazon, and that's where I found you. That Slack group, right?
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, you know, I know we're like kind of close to the towards the end of the show a little bit. We're going to be wrapping up in about 10 more minutes. Anyone that's watching, if you have any questions, like, this is your time to chime in, make any comments of your own, ask any specific questions, regardless of what it is. It doesn't matter whether it's careers or anything inspirational or any comments in general. I'd love to hear from you. And I'll also put some links in the chat too. Um, Purva, coming into this conversation, what were you thinking it was going to be like? Because I know you were like questioning about the prep and everything else. What did you think?
Yeah. I was like, are you going to ask me about, like, what do I do? I wasn't sure, right? Like, I'd seen some of these, but okay, like, this tells you I'm a nerd, right? Like, I was like, okay, I need to be prepared because God knows what you can ask me. I need to know what you're going to talk to me about. But I kind of expected a little bit about, which is like, hey, what is working at AWS look like? And who are you as a person? So it's not too different from where we talked about, but I just was like, okay, they can ask me anything. And what do I want them to not know about me? Dirty secrets. I was trying to hide my skeletons.
So what don't you want us to know about you?
Oh my
That's the
God.
first question I was
There's
asking.
so much. No, but I think what I do want people to know is that, look, be yourself when you're at AWS. The moment you start trying to be somebody else, then you are not going to be successful.
Yeah. Jenna,
Be
you
yourself
Was
because
also-
everybody else is taken.
Sorry?
Have you heard that one? Be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Yeah, that's nice. But at the same time, right? Like, we talk about the Amazon culture, so you need to still be yourself, and at the same time think about how you're going to influence and work within AWS/Amazon.
It's funny, Jenna. I knew you were gonna say that quote because that's a great one, and also one that she used when she and I were actually at my daughter's school a couple of years ago, and talking to the high school kids, and it was an all girls STEM school that my daughter goes to, and it was for the high school graduating class, and that was one of the biggest piece of advice that Jenna gave, and no matter who you are, just be yourself, like you said, because everyone else is taken. We want to know you. I remember, Purva, I told you, no one wants to hear the corporate talk. Honestly, people don't connect with a corporation. People connect with the humans that make that corporation and their mission. You have the corporation mission, but you need the people that have those same values that drive those missions, right? So, it's people like you that make this an incredible place. The more we get to know you, the more like, that's fascinating. That's interesting.
Right. Let's test if she's really in it for the work, or if she's really in it for the stability. So if you were to have won $5 million, would you work, and what would be the first thing you would buy?
I it's super interesting because my husband and I keep talking about, like, you drive around and you see the lotto ad and you're like, okay, what would we do if we won this? Will we continue working? And yeah, I think I will work. I don't know what to do with too much free time, but I think I'd definitely buy around the world trip and explore the world more. So that's something that's definitely, Jenna. Like, you can tell I've dreamt about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got a few places checked off on your list.
Yeah, the world is massive. I keep adding, like, my bucket list just keeps getting longer and longer and longer.
What's next?
What's the top of your list right now to check out?
Ooh, I want to go to Morocco and Namibia. That's really important.
I almost had a trip to Morocco. We were going to Morocco through Portugal, and my son's passport didn't have enough time on it, and we got sent back. I was so upset. So I'm with you on that Morocco dream for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going with an empty suitcase so I can just buy everything at the markets.
I just want to go eat as well. Oh my God, the food.
Favorite food?
I grew up in India, so for me, my favorite food's always going to be like roti sabji and dal chawal, like just bread with veggies, and just give me my dal chawal. Just like, yeah, that's my husband makes fun of me.
Oh, well, I'm gonna
He's
give a
like, if
shout.
you're gonna be in the jail and this is your last meal, you're gonna ask for this. I'm like, yeah, you know me.
Yeah, I love Indian food. Anyone that knows me knows that most of my friends are Indian. Being part of that Bollywood community, but also here in the New York City, one of our friends opened up the hottest restaurant called Bungalow. It's like the waiting time is like months and months in advance now, and it's incredible Indian food with these flavors that it's hard for me to describe. It just literally is. But anyone that's had Indian food, there's parts that's traditional, and there's others that are like, wow, what a twist on that. You just couldn't imagine that, and it's fantastic. So
Yeah.
yeah, you got to try it
Well,
out. Like Indian food.
if we stay in the dreamy state of potentially winning the lotto, let's say you don't, but you could be famous for something else, what would it be?
If I could be famous for something, uh, I would like to be a stand-up comedian.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I love that. I had a friend that I was super close with 10 years ago. It's like, you need to be on SNL, etc. I just had so much fear. I can't do that. I was afraid of this. I have a family to take care of now and all those things. But like, I love stand-up comedy. I go to stand-up comedies as much as I can, honestly, these days, because it's nonstop laughter. It's positive. It's just, if you can't laugh at yourself and laugh at the world, I mean, then it's like too late for you.
It also brings people together from different sides, right? I mean, you can laugh at each other, right?
Yeah.
You can find some middle ground.
Yeah.
I'd be the stand-up comedian, and 90% of the people wouldn't know how to pronounce my name. That would be my shtick. Like,
How do you pronounce your last name, actually?
Upasak.
Upasak.
Purva, have you heard of the Tech Roast Show by any chance?
Sorry.
The Tech Roast Show. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, I will Slack it to you. That's pretty much the Instagram name, Tech Roast Show. And I've actually gone to their shows every time they came to New York. They're former software engineers that became stand-up comedians, and they rip apart everything in the tech community. It's fantastic because they can laugh about the industry. They know what actually goes on. And
Yeah, but Purva doesn't do Instagram. Were you not listening,
Yeah.
Ray?
I know. I did listen, but I was going to send her. You could still view it even if you don't have an Instagram account, because my wife doesn't have one, but she still can view the stuff I share with her. But you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And they're actually in San Francisco right now. So there's actually shows that you might want to check if you have some free time.
Send it to me. Maybe they want me to join their team.
You never know. You never know. But they're always looking for people that want to be on video, to get up on stage. They actually brought me up on stage and roasted me on stage in New York City. So it was.
Oh no, I want to be the roaster.
Oh. Hey, you know what? They need some diversity. It's 3 dudes. They should have a female up there too.
There you go.
So there you go. There you go. So yeah, I just again want to thank you for joining. Actually, a couple of comments. Actually, Isaiah, welcome back to the show. He has a quick question. What's been your favorite trip that you've taken so far?
I think. Oh my God, this is tough. This is very tough. My favorite trip, I think the Antarctica trip is special because that's something which I may not get the chance to do again, because it was a huge commitment. But the trek that I did recently was also super interesting, and I'm already dreaming of my next Patagonia trip.
Amazing. And also welcome Ruchir Gandhi. Never seen you before, so welcome to the show. Love your office, Ray. Thank you. I wish I could stay here every day, but I love to also meet my colleagues in the office anytime I can, just to chit chat and just laugh about stuff in general. So yeah. Again, Purva, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. It's fantastic to get to know you. And for everyone else that came in, whether you came in early or came in late, thank you for your questions in the comments. I just do want to remind everyone to check out our career site. So if you're on AWS, if you're streaming through Twitch, make sure you follow our YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/at AWS Careers. Hit that like and subscribe button. You can actually watch replays of the videos here to there as well, including other, day in the life of X type of professional. Really get to see the different affinity groups and get to hear more perspectives. So make sure you do that. And anyone on YouTube, make sure you follow the Twitch channel, because if you're a builder or would like to be a builder, this is your opportunity to learn firsthand from the builders that have technical shows, whether you're learning about Gen AI, which is a hot topic, obviously, right? Or you're focused on Kubernetes or database or security. There's so many different shows where you can actually build. I think of it almost like free tiers, free tier support almost, because you can actually go and say, hey, I'm actually building this. I'm stuck on this. How can I do this? Right. And they'll give you best practices or share the documents that may be really tough to, tough to find information on. And let's see. And he goes, here's a shout out. Almost a solution this time. Very true. That's next. Trevor talks. Welcome, Trevor Spires, who we had on the show. So yeah, definitely. And let's see. We have another last comment. My career goal is to become an awesome. Yes, hopefully you do. Follow these shows, and we hope to have you. So again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Purva. Thank you, Jenna, for helping lead the conversation, and we will all see you next week. All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye,
Purva.
folks.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.